Have you ever found yourself struggling with something? Maybe opening a jar, figuring out a new phone, or trying to carry too many bags at once, and someone kindly offered to help, but you smiled and said, "No, thank you, I've got it." Even though you didn't, even though it would have been easier to say yes, but something inside you just wouldn't let you. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. So many people, especially those of us who've lived long lives, raised families, survived tough times, feel like accepting help somehow means we're slipping, that we're losing control, or becoming a burden, or showing weakness. But let me tell you something from the heart. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom, it's strength. And it's a sign that you know how to take care of yourself. We grew up in a time when independence was everything. You worked hard, didn't complain, took pride in doing things yourself. And that resilience built an entire generation that still stands strong today. But there's a difference between independence and isolation, between strength and silence. After 70, your body starts changing in ways you don't always expect. Maybe your knees ache. Maybe your memory plays tricks on you. Maybe things you used to do without a second thought now take a bit more energy or focus. That's normal. That's human, but what's not okay is pretending you're fine when you're not, struggling in silence, turning down support when it could make your life easier, safer, or more joyful. You wouldn't let your child or grandchild suffer through something alone if you knew you could help. So why would you deny yourself that same kindness? Let's shift the mindset. Let's talk about asking for help as something brave, something smart, something that shows you care about your own well-being enough to let someone walk beside you. Because here's the truth. When you ask for help, you're not just getting support. You're giving others the gift of connection, of usefulness, of love. Think about it. How do you feel when someone you care about trusts you enough to say, "Can you help me with this?" You feel honored, needed, closer. It's the same for the people in your life. They don't help because they pity you. They help because they care, because they want to be part of your world. And when you let them in, you create moments of closeness, of honesty, of shared strength. There's an old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. At this stage in life, it's not about going fast anymore. It's about going deep, going meaningfully, going together. And that journey begins with the courage to say, "I could use a hand." So the next time someone offers to carry a bag, or explain a new gadget, or just sit with you through something hard, take a breath, look them in the eye, and say yes. Not because you're weak, but because you are wise enough to know you don't have to do it all alone. And that, dear friend, is where real strength lives, in connection. Let's keep talking about what that looks like, and how it can bring more peace, confidence, and joy into your life. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to slow down a little as we get older? But inside, our minds don't always follow suit? Maybe your body says, "Let's take it slow." But your pride says, "You used to do this in half the time. What's wrong with you?" That inner voice can be loud, and often it tells us to stay quiet, to just keep going, to never let anyone see that we might need a little help. But here's something we often forget. Accepting help isn't giving up control. It's choosing a better kind of control. Think of it this way. Let's say your knee hurts when you go up the stairs. You could grit your teeth and force your way through, refusing any help. But what does that get you? Pain, risk, maybe even a fall. Now imagine you pause, ask your daughter for an arm, or take the time to use the railing, or even say, "Let's just sit downstairs today." That's not weakness, that's wisdom. That's you protecting your independence, not giving it away. Because when you ask for help in smart ways, you actually extend your freedom. You keep yourself safe. You preserve your energy. You avoid burnout. You make sure you can keep doing the things you love longer. That's a powerful shift. Not seeing help as something that takes from your independence, but something that supports. And here's another truth. When we let others help, we give them the chance to feel closer to us. Often, the people around you, your kids, your neighbors, your spouse, even friends, want to help. But they hold back because they're afraid they'll offend you. Or they don't know how to offer without stepping on your pride. But when you open the door, when you say, "Hey, could you give me a hand with this?" You're not burdening them. You're inviting them in, you're building trust. And you know what happens next, something beautiful. They feel more connected to you. They start checking in more. They show up more. Not just because you asked for help, but because they now feel part of your life. We all want to feel needed. That doesn't end after 70. If anything, it becomes even more important. But sometimes the most powerful way to feel needed is to let yourself need others. It doesn't mean you lose your identity. You're still strong, you're still capable, but you're wise enough to know that strength isn't about always doing. It's about knowing when to lean in, who to lean on, and how to keep going with grace. And let's not forget, asking for help doesn't always have to be physical. It can be emotional. Maybe you're dealing with grief or fear, or just feeling a little lost lately. Opening up to someone, a friend, a loved one, even a support group, isn't a sign of weakness. It's a step toward healing. We weren't meant to carry the weight of life alone. We were meant to share it. And there's a deep kind of beauty in doing so. So if today you're facing something, big or small, and your instinct is to say, "I've got it," just pause for a second. Ask yourself, do I really? And if the honest answer is no, give yourself permission to say yes to help, not because you can't, but because you know that you don't have to. And that, my friend, is the beginning of living with more ease, more honesty, and more strength than ever before. Let's keep exploring how choosing support over silence can open the door to a fuller, more connected life. There's a quiet kind of courage that comes with saying, "I need help." It's not the kind of courage people write headlines about. It doesn't shout or wave flags. But it's the kind that builds bridges between you and the people who care about you, and even between you and yourself. Because when you begin to ask for help from a place of strength, not shame, you start to see something powerful. You are still in charge of your life. You're just choosing to live it with support, with honesty, with less pressure on your shoulders and more space in your heart. And the truth is, asking for help isn't just good for you, it's good for them too. So many times when you let someone help you, they feel valued. Especially younger people, your children, grandchildren, neighbors. They feel more capable when you trust them. They learn patience, empathy, responsibility, and they begin to see you not as someone who needs care, but as someone wise enough to invite them in. Think of the last time you let someone do something kind for you. Maybe they brought you groceries, explained a confusing piece of technology, or just sat and listened when your heart was heavy. That moment didn't just solve a problem, it built a connection. That's the real beauty of help. It brings us closer. It softens walls. It lets love move freely. And yet, it's not always easy, especially for those of us who spent decades as the caregiver, the provider, the rock. We're not used to receiving. But here's something I want you to hear clearly. You don't stop being strong when you ask for help. You show that your strength has evolved. It's grown wiser, more compassionate, more balanced, because being strong isn't about pretending you never need anything. It's about knowing when to reach out and who to reach to. It's about trusting that you are still capable, even when you invite others in. Sometimes we fear that asking for help makes us seem less than. But the opposite is true. It makes us more human, more connected, more open to the beautiful experience of receiving. And for many of us, receiving is something we've forgotten how to do. We've spent decades giving, raising families, working hard, taking care of everyone else. But now, in this season of life, it's okay to allow yourself to receive too. In fact, it's essential, because when you allow others to give back to you, you're not being selfish or lazy or burdensome. You're creating balance. And in that balance, you find energy, peace, even joy. You may even notice your days start to feel easier, not just because you got a little help with something, but because you stopped resisting the love that was waiting for you. And if the thought of asking still feels uncomfortable, try starting small. Let someone hold the door. Let your grandchild teach you how to use a new app. Let a neighbor bring you soup. Let someone walk beside you, even if you feel like you can still walk alone. Each time you say yes to support, you're saying yes to life shared. And a shared life is a full life. So if today you feel tired or unsure or like things are getting just a little harder than they used to, know this: you don't have to carry it alone. You never did. And when you stop trying to be everything to everyone and simply allow yourself to be human, you open the door to more peace, more connection, and more of the grace that this chapter of life is meant to hold. Let's keep going, because there's still more to say about how asking for help can unlock not just ease, but also purpose, pride, and the deep, beautiful strength of being seen. There's something incredibly powerful about being seen, not as someone fading into the background, not as someone to be tiptoed around, but as someone who still matters, who still belongs. And so often, that feeling of being seen begins with one simple moment, when you let someone in, not because you're helpless, but because you know that together is always stronger than alone. We don't talk enough about how aging can feel invisible sometimes. You walk into a store and no one greets you. You bring up a story from the past and someone changes the subject. You sit quietly at a family gathering and wonder if anyone notices you're tired. It's easy to feel like the world has moved on, like you're just supposed to manage quietly, to not ask for too much, to smile and say you're fine. But what if we flip that story? What if asking for help wasn't something to be embarrassed about, but something that brought you back into the center of your own life? Because the truth is, you are still the author of your story. Every time you reach out, whether to share a feeling, ask for support, or simply say, "Can we talk?" you're writing a new chapter, one where you are still growing, still connecting, still thriving. And here's something else I hope you remember. Letting others help you gives them permission to do the same one day. You become the example, the role model. You show the people around you, your children, your grandchildren, even your friends, that real courage isn't hiding your struggle. It's speaking it aloud with grace. It's saying, "I'm strong enough to know I don't have to do everything alone anymore." And it's trusting that love won't walk away when you ask for it. If anything, it will walk closer. Now imagine this. Instead of struggling silently, you ask your neighbor to change that light bulb. Instead of sitting with loneliness, you call an old friend and say, "I've missed you." Instead of pushing through the pain, you go to the doctor and say, "I need support." Each time you do, you invite light back in. You remind yourself, "I matter enough to be cared for. I matter enough to speak up." And that is the kind of strength the world needs more of. Not the kind that pushes through pain until it breaks, but the kind that knows when to pause, to reach, and to receive. So today, if something's been weighing on your heart or your shoulders, I hope you give yourself permission to ask, not just for help, but for connection, for kindness, for ease. What's one moment in your life when asking for help brought you peace or strength? Share it in the comments. Someone else might need your story today more than you know. If this video reminded you of your worth, if it brought you comfort or courage, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear these words too. Here's to living with honesty, with support, and with the bold, beautiful strength of being human. Here's to living your best life at any age.